Let's talk Corpus Disruption. This actually needed to be talked as soon as Cyanax came out, and Tharros Strike is the subsumable ability. But it took me quite a long time to get Cyanax. I just like to subsume him, so I wasn't caring about it a lot. But actually using Tharros Strike, we got a whole different situation to talk about the whole Demolist and Corpus disruption. First thing is that we need to kind of divide the whole scenario of a Corpus disruption, probably between Amalgam disruption and Corpus disruption. Amalgams are included in the Corpus faction, but they're different enemies. You'll see Machinist, Antimoa, Bursa, and Hyena on Lua and Neptune, and you'll see Hecate, Machinist, Moa, and Satyr on Jupiter. What changes is Machinist and which is one and Hecate. They do have flesh, and something that might be a little bit harder if you're used to Grenier disruption is that all of the demos on the very low level, they are cloned flesh, and so if you armor strip, all of them are gonna take insane amounts of damage, or 75% extra damage to their health, because they're all cloned flesh below. So yeah, that's how it goes. Corpus, on the other way, are a little bit different. They not only have flesh, which is already different from cloned flesh. Instead of taking 75%, they take 50%. They have shields, which you're gonna have to deal. And not all of them are flesh. They can also be robotic, which actually takes minus 25% damage from the Toxin, which for quite a long time now has been the element we've been using to deal with the Corpus, because it just bypasses shields. Back in the day, it used to be gas, now is Toxin, the only damage type that can actually bypass shields. So the thing would be to use Toxin, and that was probably the best option before we had Tharros Strike, because Tharros Strike is able to strip shields and armor. And that is a final removal, so it's pretty good. If we were to talking Lua, the only real demo that would get killed the most easy way would be the Machinist, because he actually takes increased damage from a Toxin. But any other of the demos, such as Antimoa, Bursa, or Hyena, would actually take minus 25% damage from Toxin. So, in the grand scheme of things, that 25%, not only the reduction from Corpus taking 75% more damage, like the viral on their flesh, and the Corpus taking only, the vast majority is going to take only 50% on their lowest, let's say the very base of their structure is the robotic, and for this one is flesh. They're only taking 50%. 25% is already a considerable amount in the grand scheme of things. If you're doing millions of damage, 25% is gonna make a difference. But before we had Tharros Strike, just using Toxin was probably the most viable thing. If you were dealing like an absurd amount of damage and getting those multipliers, just using Toxin would be no problem. And if you don't have access to Tharros Strike, Toxin might possibly still be the best option for you. But if you have access to Tharros Strike, probably the best thing to do would be to use Electricity, because Electricity is gonna give you the biggest advantage against these three. So yeah, to achieve actually 100% strip with Tharros Strike, you're gonna need at least 200% power strength, which can be achieved on different ways. This is the build I usually have on my runs. This one is a little bit different, but since we are going to be using Tharros Strike, I'm just going to keep it the old way as it is. Above 200% power strength, and yeah, using Tharros Strike, 100% defense reduction should be fairly easy. So if there is a loadout, I would recommend pick the frame that you want. I would say even either Revenant, Ash, Loki, whatever you want to use. Put Tharros Strike in if you have it, and for Tharros Strike, pick maybe a weapon with can deal a high amount of electricity damage. Here's the Netherrack build I use for the Corpus. I just changed, instead of having Toxin there, which was what I used to have, I just traded Infected Clip for Stormbringer. And then I'm using here the primary dexterity. To keep up my dexterity stacks, I'm going to be using a Contagion with Toxin. It's going to be able to kill most of the lighter enemies with some ease. Let's take Toxicat here. It's just going to be a way to show you guys. And I was talking about Tharros Strike and Tharros Strike only because I did try it pillage, but pillage is bad against demos for some reason. I think pillage is working as intended for normal enemies, but not working as intended for demolists. Really not working as intended for demolists. That is weird. We're gonna give it a try now. We're gonna be using our Contagion to get our stacks in. We're also any robotics gonna be taking a fairly decent amount of damage from our electricity. This tile set is quite unique. Remember to get your stacks up and then be ready for the demo. Here we have our first demo. Has shields and stuff. Primer, Tharros Strike, Netherrack, dead. Here we have the one that doesn't have armor, but just strip the shields. Should deal a fairly decent amount of damage. It's gonna be neutral damage, or probably neutral damage for the electricity, so it's not that bad. There we go. It's not that hard, but it's really up to you what you want to use against the Corpus. If it's gonna be Tharros Strike, electricity, or maybe only Toxin and some armor trip. Can be Unairu. I really look towards either bypassing the shields or just completely removing them with the Tharros Strike, because on very high levels is where you're gonna feel the difference. Because those shields are gonna be going up considerably along the levels, so it's really interesting if you either bypass them or completely remove them. That's what I think about now, but yeah. And it also probably depends on the weapon. If you're able to dish out tremendous amounts of damage, then a Toxin might be just easier. If not, you can try electricity. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Would you use electricity, or would you use Toxin, or would you use something else? Let me know in the comments below. Leave it a like, consider subscribing.